Snaps.
Georgie found directions pretty good.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Next Go Wins podcast. It feels like we have not done an episode. Georgie was saying this, but it feels like we haven't done an episode in a while, which is good because you know why? It's actually only been about a week. So how crazy is it that it's been about a week and it feels like it's been so long since we've done an episode? That means we're cranking out content.
That's true.
Wait, there's no way it's only been a week.
It's been about a week.
It was
I can check
last
the YouTube
weekend,
channel.
I think.
It's 2 weeks.
No.
Less than 2 weeks for sure.
Less than 2 weeks, but definitely not a week.
Maybe a little bit more than a week. Still, most people will crank out an episode once a week.
We're not most people.
Yeah, exactly. We're not most people. We typically do 2 a week. By the way, is this too much advertising? Sign. Right here. Next Go Wins, baby. Get these hoodies on our online store. That doesn't exist yet because this is a sample. This is the only
Coming
one.
soon,
One
maybe,
of one.
possibly. Probably
Where's the
not.
green one?
It's in the room. Want me to grab
Back
it?
in the bag? We'll get it. Georgie and his
well,
people.
this is one way to get Joe on the podcast. Wow, so.
All right, Joe. Flash that bad boy for the camera. Nice.
Now leave it there the whole entire time.
Yep.
Sit like this.
This is the problem when we start podcasts at 11 o'clock at night. We've already lost the plot before we even get started. No, we have we don't actually have merch. These are just samples we're using for other purposes. But one day we might have merch. Right now we probably just wouldn't sell it. That's the problem.
I mean, yeah, who would buy?
Anyways, I am joined by my co-hosts, Joe, Statsman.
In the merch holder, I guess, as well now.
What are the updates, Joe?
Stats are looking phenomenal. That's all I got for you.
Are they though?
Nah, they've
How
been
many-
better.
Are they?
How
Been better.
many subscribers do we have on YouTube?
55.
Wow.
So it's not bad, but we
We're
need to get to
growing.
1,000. If we can get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, we can actually start making money. Well, we still need watch hours and stuff like that, but that's easy.
Only, 950 something, 40 something more to go?
945 followers to go, and we can start making some money. We're almost there.
And then you can
If
start
we
selling merch.
If we grew as fast as we did with the TikTok, that would have been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But the TikTok is also dead now because we haven't been uploading as often with the TikTok.
But Instagram's alive.
Dun, dun, dun,
Thriving.
dun.
No, Instagram is just less dead than it usually is. Instagram is like the one that's the most dead.
Guys,
and
I'm
now
the,
it's
I'm the
least dead.
stats man, and I said the stats are good, so we're just
Moving on.
supposed to
Moving on.
Just move on.
All right, and then I got Georgie.
That's me. I'm here.
Anything, Georgie?
Nope.
We had to drag Georgie here because Georgie is in some serious depression right now because Klopp is leaving.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, that's legit. I'm really upset about that.
And then Arsenal beat Liverpool.
I'm not so upset about that.
And of course, Georgie's got excuses, blaming the referees. He's not taking any accountability whatsoever.
That's the nope. We'll get. I'm sure that's the first thing we're gonna get into anyway. So
Well, speaking of things that we're going to get into, let's get into the precap, everyone's favorite segment. Not really, but at least we know what we're going to be talking about, so you guys have an idea. Premier League roundup. Premier League is back. It honestly has felt like months since the Premier League has been.
maybe that's why I feel like we haven't done a podcast.
It was nice to finally have a weekend of just Premier League games
Yeah.
for the first time in a long
God.
time.
So we got some Premier League roundup. We got some matches around other parts of the world. A little bit of transfer talk. Transfer window's officially closed. Boring ass transfer window. I'm not gonna lie, boring.
Yeah.
Yep.
Financial fair play.
The last day was as dead as the first day.
Yep.
But anyway, we'll talk a little bit about some possible transfer talk for later as well. We'll go into the VAR room segment, which if you haven't listened to this podcast, it's things that have gone on that we missed, so we bring it back into the VAR room. So it's not actually directly related to VAR. Most of the time it ends up being related to VAR because there's always a VAR incident. But I don't think there's any VAR room drama or VAR drama in this segment today. We have the wild card, which I've posed a question for you guys. We'll see if we can do a little bit of debating on that. And then, of course, we finish it off with fun facts, which is typically the best part of the podcast. We learn some stuff.
From your book.
From my book, from my soccer book. All right. So, who wants to start? Georgie, Joe, who wants to start?
Georgie can
Arsenal versus Liverpool. Arsenal 3-1.
The referee. No. Look, it's today. it was an awful game. Liverpool. That was one of the worst performances of the season for Liverpool. Very, very lucky it was only 3-1, I would say. And especially the first half was just terrible. Going into half at 1-1, I thought that was the time where I thought, okay, you know what? We played so bad. It's as worse as you can probably play. And you're going into halftime, tied up. Arsenal giving you a lifeline with that equalizer in the last minute, last second of the first half. And I thought maybe Liverpool's going to wake up and they're going to come out second half, which they did the first 10, 12 minutes or so. Really good. Came out, had 3 or 4 really good chances to score the second goal. And then from there, just downhill. Overall, not a good performance. Did not deserve any of the points. No player really stood out in that performance. It was just overall it was just a bad day at the office, and simple as that. And Arsenal deserved the 3 points, and there's nothing. That's just pretty much it. It was just one of those days, and it happens. I feel like no matter who you are, no matter what, you're gonna have those days. And usually you can hide it in terms of you have 11 players on the field. Obviously, then you have your substitutes that come in to potentially change the game for the better. However, usually if you have 2, 3 players that play really bad, everybody else picks up the slack and you kind of can balance it off. Today we're just dwelling on the ball. Decision making was terrible. Communication was like anything that could have went wrong and bad for Liverpool in terms of a way of how, like compared to what they usually play, like just wasn't there. So intensity, just everything that could have went wrong, and obviously to top it off, the Van Dijk Allison error, miscommunication, lack of leadership within that situation. Nobody wants to take control of it. I mean, that sums it all. That moment sums up the whole entire Liverpool performance. So there's
fair
nothing.
enough, Joe.
I'll agree with a lot of things that Georgie said. I was disappointed to see the Liverpool lineup to start because I was hoping that more Liverpool players would be fit. It was disappointing not to see Soboslai. I think that was probably the one that hurt a lot. Obviously, we knew Salah was going to be out. Darwin not being fully fit to start, I think, also changes the way you guys play. So that, I think, played against Liverpool, obviously. Arsenal, you can only play the team that's in front of you. And when I looked at the team sheet, I was questioning the Jorginho pick that I thought Trossard might start and then keep Kai in midfield. But it played out really, really well, and I think Arteta knew how the game would play out, and he made the right decisions at the right time and had a good game plan. And we were talking about this before, that Arsenal's game plan, at least it seemed like for most of the first half, was to play the ball over the top and let Martinelli get on the ball and create chances against Trent, and it worked wonderfully. I was very nervous going into halftime because Arsenal was bossing the game, missing chances, and not really. We were on the front foot, it felt like, the whole first half. Then giving away a weak goal to start the second half, and then Liverpool coming out strong. And I was thinking, oh, shoot, as this game progresses, Liverpool can add on Darwin and add on more pace and change the way that. And I was really worried that was going to turn into us somehow dropping points. But then you guys gifted a goal right back. And then from there, it really kind of just fell apart. Then the Konate red card, then Trossard with the third. But Arsenal appear to be slowly growing back into like that beginning of the season last year team that we saw. And now it seems like we're growing into the second half of the season. So it's all going to come down to, can Arteta keep the trend going, and can we beat City when we have to go to the Etihad in I think a few weeks. But I was very happy about today, but still a lot of time left, and we have ground to make up. That if City wins their 2 games in hand, they're on top, and they're not an easy team to catch. They are not an easy catch.
All right, I'll tell you what.
You?
I'll tell you what. I think Liverpool need to sack Klopp at the end of the season. That's number 1. He needs to be gone. No, I told Eddie, my boy, which I give him a lot of shout out on this podcast, but he asked me for the prediction before the game, and I said 3-1 Arsenal, no big deal. I knew that was going to happen only because I felt like Liverpool did not have their best lineup. It's a good moment to play against Liverpool right now, and for the most part, Arsenal's pretty healthy. We didn't have anywhere near as many players missing. I mean, the most notable one probably Gabriel Jesus. But for me, the only part that worries me is that like I feel that Arsenal are only really going to win these games if Liverpool, City, some of the other top teams, even Chelsea, if they're missing a couple of their players. Because I can't really tell you I've ever been too confident going into some of these games thinking like, okay, we might actually beat another title contender team. And I the only reason I mentioned Chelsea, not because they're title contenders, but because for some reason, anytime we play them, it's always going to be a difficult game. And then other teams play them and Wolves play them and smash them, right? So, but for us, I feel like that's the reason why we haven't been able to actually win the Premier League is when it comes to these title-defining matches, we typically either at best get a draw at home or we lose the game for sure away. So, and I mean, Joe's the stats guy, so he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I just felt like while it was definitely a good victory for us, a good 3 points, I'm still scared that we won't be able to get over some of the games when Liverpool, Manchester City, and all these other really good teams are actually at full strength. But
you're not wrong. We've gotten a little bit lucky playing some of them when they're not at full strength. However, we beat this year alone. We've beaten United at home. We've beaten Liverpool, and we've beaten City now. That when you look at those are 3 games that we easily drop points in. So could this be the difference? I think it's going to come down to what results can we get in those games away. Because you have to win one of those games, I think, away to take the title. Like we have to beat City away.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
And I think the other reason why I think we've been playing well is because apparently now all of the players are living in the same house, sharing wives. So Georgie sent this to me, right? We have like a little group chat, so we send each other things whenever there's something that we should talk about on the podcast. And the first one that you sent was not from a troll account, but it wasn't like
it
wasn't
like
an
Fabrizio
official account,
Romano
and
or
it wasn't
ESPN.
like him talking either. It was just an actual like in quotes
So if you
typed up.
If you guys missed this, Arteta said this about Zinchenko and Ben White, who had basically argued on the pitch after their last game. Even though they won, they were arguing on the pitch. They had to be separated, and so then they asked him how they've been doing recently, and he said that they're doing great. They're living in the same house, sharing wives. So I'm surprised there hasn't been more on that because I feel like nowadays in these times you can't really say things like that anymore. But yeah.
Why is there Tet in the headlines every single week? First Salt Bay.
What a legend.
A week later, sharing wives. Tomorrow is going to be about
The celebrations.
Celebrations, and then
the man was doing laps around the stadium when they scored a goal, running up and down the sidelines. It's great. It's great. You could tell he's still got a lot of it. You can tell he's a newer manager, a fresher manager.
Mm.
Yeah,
because I mean he's still able to do that. But we can move on. We can move on from because I feel like this is starting to also turn into the Next Goal Wins Arsenal/Liverpool podcast.
As it should be. Good.
We'll move on to Chelsea versus Wolves. So once again, Chelsea continues to be shambles. Georgie, how much is it due to Chelsea being just a shite team versus Wolves and their manager O'Neill being legit?
I think it's a little bit of both, but that's 2 games. So Chelsea played Liverpool midweek away, and then they played at home today, and that's 8 goals conceded in 2 games. If you want to be a top, I'm not going to even say a title challenger. I'm going to say a top 6 team. You can't allow 8 goals in 2 games. And you can say one is against Liverpool. Okay. But Wolves at home, that's a game when you put on your calendar. Fair enough. Wolves are, I think, a really good team and a really well-coached team. But at home, you should not be getting beat 4-2. There is just no way, especially for the amount of money you spent. Just the 2 midfielders, Caicedo and Enzo, cost more than the Wolves' entire team. And obviously, Wolves are a really good team. So that just tells you how much money Chelsea has spent on players that are supposed to take it to the next level, and instead of taking the next step forward, you're probably like 4 or 5 steps back just because of how the season has gone. And it's both. I think Wolves are a good team, but you can't every week Pochettino saying I'm sorry to the fans. You can't. How many times is I'm sorry done with? You can't keep having those statements. I'm sorry to the fans. That wasn't good enough. You just I don't know. I have no idea how he's not under. I mean, I'm sure he's under pressure now, but they're in what 11th place. Like,
Think so, yeah.
that's insane
11th.
for the amount of money you've spent. Like,
It's
I have no words. Because when you look at that team on paper, you're gonna say a lot of those. That's a pretty that team should not be in 11th place. Like, you look at the talent that they have on that team, you should not be in 11th place. But then you watch them play, it's like, oh my God, you guys are terrible. Like, their organization, it feels like they just got, like, a bunch of people just called each other, came on the field, and just started playing, and they've never played before. And you can't say it's not due to the coach or the coaching, because at this point, you can't keep saying, oh, we need more players. Oh, we need more time. We need this. We need this. You need to see some sort of progression that the team is, like, the style of play or the whatever. I don't know. I feel like when you watch Arsenal play, when you watch Liverpool play, Man City, when you watch the top team, even Wolves, they have an identity. What's Chelsea's identity? I have no. Chelsea might
Cole
be.
Palmer.
I was gonna say hope. I was
Yeah,
just gonna say the
so-
same thing. Hope Cole Palmer figures out a way to score 2 or 3 goals.
And that's like one of the younger guys, like, coming into the team, one of the newest players coming into the team, trying to change something. I don't know. For me, it's
George is not happy today, as you guys can see.
No,
He's
he's
not. I wonder why. George is not.
listen.
Not happy.
I like Pochettino. That was the thing. I really like Pochettino.
That was going to be my next question.
I like him a lot. I don't know.
Is there any reality where Pochettino gets sacked, like, regardless of where they finish this season, or is he, no matter what, going to be the coach all the way through the year? Because
Barring a relegation battle, of course.
if you sack him, that'll be what? Then they'll be on their 4th coach this season alone.
Who do you even get? Graham Potter's available.
Well, that's the other part of me too. Like, part of me thinks that if you're now in this spot, I still think they should have just held Graham Potter the whole way through. And obviously,
I disagree with that.
It's hindsight's 20/20 and all. You can't go back and change any of it. But at least with Graham Potter, they weren't bleeding goals. People were frustrated that they weren't attacking enough, but they weren't giving up eight goals over 2 games.
Yeah, but with Graham Potter, they were losing almost every single game. There was no.
I don't even remember what that was like.
Pochettino's at least having some random games in here and there where he wins and stuff like that. I think with Graham Potter, it was like a straight on free fall nosedive.
Nice.
Yeah.
But I mean, look at what.
And well, to be fair, Graham Potter also was like the start of the really, really bad part, and then they were like, okay, we gotta
move.
Yeah.
I will say, though, it is somewhat unfair, I think, to Wolves, because Wolves are good. That's 2 games in a row now. Wolves have put up 2 great performances, away at United and then away at Chelsea, which, outside of Menu's 97th minute winner, they were close to getting 4 points out of those 2 matches, which I think is pretty good. And that's without Hwang, because he's at the Asia Cup doing well. But they're exciting to watch when Neto's fit.
Yeah.
So my question, I guess, for you guys is, one, should Pochettino be close to getting sacked? Like, is he one more bad performance away from getting sacked? Is that how close it is? Or is it, like Joe said, is it, unless they're in the relegation battle, he's probably going to stay in until next year and then be giving a chance during preseason and all of that? And also, the follow-up to that question is he actually a good manager? Because he's done well at Tottenham, or he did well at Tottenham, got him to a certain level, got sacked when it was a good time to get sacked because he had built them up. They were kind of falling down a little bit, but not really. Like, he had built them up to a certain level, his own expectations, and then they sacked him for not meeting those expectations a little bit after.
He got sacked, this following season after Champions League final loss, right?
So then he goes to PSG, and PSG's one of those no success clubs, because if you win, it's because you have Mbappe and you should win because you have all these players.
Yep.
If you lose, it's only your fault, not because of the players. And that wasn't the greatest managerial stint either. And then he goes to Chelsea, and he hasn't really had any success at Chelsea, any consistent success at Chelsea. So is he getting sacked soon? And is he actually a good manager or not?
I don't think he'll get sacked soon. I think that at this point they've committed. They haven't come out and said this, but just by the actions, I feel like you're committing to him through the beginning of next season, really, no matter what. That I think they'll give him all of this year, the off season, and then if results are still bad a month or two into the season, look at maybe making some changes. But for some reason, I think that they'll just stick with him now. Is he actually a good manager? I feel like Pochettino will do better at a club like Villa or West Ham than being at a top club. I think one thing he did a great job of at Tottenham was getting players to really, really believe and buy in and like be part of that underdog story. Because even in that run to the Champions League final, they got very lucky in the game against, was it Ajax, where Lucas Moura had
It was a huge comeback.
second half hat trick.
Yeah.
That I think was kind of a mixture and a culmination of like a great vision as well as great buy-in and good man management that got a lot of pretty good players to elevate. But I think he doesn't have what is needed to be one of the top guys at a big club. Because, I mean, he's done it. He's been at PSG now and now at Chelsea, and I don't think either have really looked good.
What do you think, Georgie?
Georgie's got some stats at
I just wanted to see their following games. And the next game is the FA Cup. So, I mean, it is what it is against Aston Villa. So, tough match. Then you go away to Crystal Palace. That's a game. That's a must-win game. I think they lose to Crystal Palace. The run of games away in Man City. Luckily, the Chelsea Spurs games is postponed because they're in the final against Liverpool in the EFL Cup. Then they're Brentford away, and at home to Newcastle, and then Arsenal away. So you're looking at that schedule. Crystal Palace is the only game, and then you obviously Brentford. You can say it's probably a must-win as well. Out of the 5-6 games, you have City, you have Arsenal, and then final against Liverpool. If you lose to Palace, pressure's 1,000%. Like those run of games will tell me if he stays or not. You lose the final, let's say to Liverpool, if they do lose, it is what it is. You got to a final. That's great. But then Premier League, teams are going to win around you. So you go away to Man City. Man City is most likely going to win the way you've been playing. You play Arsenal. Arsenal will most likely win, even though it's a London derby, whatever. Then you have Newcastle. You never know what Newcastle you're going to get. And then the only two games that possibly you should be 100% winning are Palace and Brentford. And again, Palace is the first one. So how much pressure does that put on you to get those 3 points? Because if you don't, you look at the run of games that you have against the top boys, and you're like, this can get ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the thing that puts a lot of pressure on him for me, or a lot of criticism, is the fact that if you're a good manager, you have a style of play. I mean, anyone should have a style of play. Even if you're a bad manager, like bad managers, even Big Sam has a style of play. However, it should be identifiable to know, like, that is how he wants to play. Like, I talk shit a lot about Big Ange because I'm like, I just don't like his style of play. However, I can recognize that he's got a certain way of doing things. That's the problem with Pochettino, which is why I asked that question, is you can't see a style of play. It's very similar to Manchester United, whereas like you don't know what they're doing out there. Yep. The only time I saw it was against Arsenal, and they played a very specific way to manage to get a draw against us. But besides that, Chelsea's all over the place. So, like, I'm thinking as another club, thinking about maybe Pochettino being in the list for our next manager. I'm thinking, like, what is actually his style of play? What has he actually done with Chelsea? It feels like he hasn't really done anything, which is why, one, they're so inconsistent. And two, I feel like he's under a lot of pressure. I don't know.
I mean, look, you play you play Aston Villa away in the FA Cup, but then your following game is at Crystal Palace. Going away to Crystal Palace is not anything easy. Like, Palace at home are usually pretty good, despite of how bad they've been this season. But let's say they do lose that game. You have Palace in 14th place with 24 points. Chelsea are 11th at 31. So that means with one win, Chelsea could potentially, because you have Bournemouth with 27 who are playing good. You have Fulham with 26 who are doing pretty good themselves. They win those games. Now you're getting sucked into anywhere from like 14th to 16th place. That's crazy.
Yeah.
For a team that spent that much money in the market.
I guarantee if we did the math, Sheffield, Burnley, Luton, Forest, Brentford, Palace, Fulham, Bournemouth, all those teams together did not spend anywhere close to that money.
Will Chelsea have to start offloading players then too to stay within financial fair play?
I did read that as well. So
because then I would assume they're going to sell a lot of these players at a loss because it's not like people are going to be paying $80 or $100 million for Mudryk, you know?
Which might be a good thing, though.
Yeah, a rebuild just to clear. I don't know. I don't know how much is the players.
Start getting rid of some of these guys, to be honest.
Like
Mudryk, but you still have to field a team.
Mudryk, I can see why, because he's been there 2 years now, so like you can kind of, or a year and a half, but you can kind of see like, okay, it's just not working out. Yeah. Maybe he doesn't need to move on.
But who's going to buy him, and what are they going to pay?
They just have to accept that they lost a lot of money. That's it. Like Todd Bowley's going to have to accept that he wasted close to $1 billion in a lot of these players.
Well, the problem is you can't though, because if you're running at a net negative like that, that's when you get these point deductions. Now imagine imagine going into next season if they do have to sell players, and then if they don't fall within financial fair play, and then imagine if they had a 10-point deduction right now, where they'd be.
Oh, a 10-point deduction, they're in the relegation battle.
And that's kind of my point, is that
I don't know.
They're not. They have to figure it out quick, because they are in. Could you imagine Chelsea being in a relegation battle and getting relegated? Oh my goodness!
I mean, look, this run of games is going to tell me all. The next 5 games in the Premier League.
Next 5 games are going to decide whether Pochettino stays till the end of the season or he's gone between these 5 games.
If 5 games, total of 15 points on the table. If Chelsea don't get 7 or 8 points, I think
GG's.
it's gone.
And that'll be hard too, because those are not easy teams and games to beat.
All right, let's move on. We spent a lot of time on Chelsea there. Let's move on. Manchester United beat West Ham 3-0.
I didn't watch the game. 2 good results for Ten Hag and his amazing cycle of 3 games very good, 3 games terrible.
Georgie loves the Ten Hag cycle, which is like you have a good performance. Everybody loves Ten Hag. You have a couple bad performances.
Everybody, I love Ten Hag. Ten Hag, my favorite. He's the best manager in the Premier League.
Georgie loves where Manchester United is right now.
Yes, stay there for the next 20 years.
It's not going to happen.
No, probably not.
I actually think Ten Hag is going to be let go. I think Ineos or the people are going to do a good job of seeing what's going on. They're going to realize that he has supported Harry Maguire throughout all this crap, and they're going to say, this is the guy that we want to keep here? Absolutely not. There's no loyalty. The only reason, or the only way you can be as successful as someone like Manchester City, Barcelona, when they were successful, was, as much as I hate to say it, you cannot be loyal to the players. You have to be loyal to the performances. Yeah. That's the most important part. These people, like, Ten Hag still supports Harry Maguire because of the one good season that he had back when he first came, or whatever. And so they want them to be those types of players, even though they're not those players for whatever reason. They might be, and even if they can be, if they haven't been for a year, they got to let them go. Because now you're where Manchester United is, you're where Chelsea, well, Chelsea's a little different because they just bought a crap ton of players. But Manchester United, they've been supporting the same players for quite some time, and it's been so inconsistent that it's not Rashford, Harry Maguire, Bruno Fernandes. Those are not going to be the guys that are going to take you back to the level that you once were. They might have had one good season, which is great. They have a bad second season or third season, you got to get rid of them and find somebody else. Otherwise, you're going to end up like Manchester United. Manchester City has done it the other way around, where people are surprised when they sell some of these players. They're like, wow, you're getting rid of Gundogan. You're getting rid of Sterling. Like, these players, and that's the reason why they're at the top, because they don't fuck around with that stuff. Ineos does not fuck around with that stuff.
With that being said, we love where Manchester United are at.
Yeah, pretty
just
much.
teasing, getting into the top 4,
I mean, I'm fine with it.
Then falling
and then
back.
falling back.
I'm fine with it.
3 games on, 3 games off, 3 games.
Two
Boom.
steps back, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward.
I love it. It's
So-
a perfect spot.
But we're talking shit about them. They just beat West Ham 3-0.
Yeah, I didn't watch the game.
It was a close though. I didn't watch the game either,
Yeah.
but we watched the highlights, and it seemed a lot closer.
Yeah.
That with 1 or 2 lucky breaks, all of a sudden game on. But
That sometimes it just doesn't go your way.
My boys, Newcastle, not my boys, not Newcastle, Luton, Luton, 4-4 against Newcastle, and I've been saying this at the beginning. I believe in Luton. I believe in them because
Wait, you didn't. No,
I
you
don't know if I
never
ever said
said
that.
that.
no,
I didn't say
I
this.
will say what
I didn't say
what
this.
you said was that they're going to get most of their points
Yes.
in the second half
Yes.
of the season.
You did say that,
which,
but-
which appears
to be the case.
Yes.
we're a few games into
And-
that, and it does appear to be
So
true.
they're out of the relegation battle, or
Just-
they're not out of the relegation battle, but they're out of the relegation zone.
Yeah.
Yes,
And I just think the performances that they had against Arsenal, where Arsenal managed to somehow snag a win at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with City. If they would have held on, and they were up in those,
Yep.
if they would have held on just a little bit longer and they get points against, let's say 3 points against Arsenal or 3 points against Man City, plus what they're doing now, I think they'd be in a really, really good spot.
They should have held on against Newcastle.
Yeah. So like these games are the ones that make me feel like if they're doing well against these teams, they're not so bad.
Yeah.
well, they still have
It's-
a game in hand too on everyone else around them. So they're 1 point out of the drop zone, 1 point behind Nottingham Forest, and they still have a game in hand against Nottingham Forest and are beating them in the goal differential tiebreaker.
I would love to
So-
see Luton stay up.
They could.
I do too. Great story.
Any chance Burnley or Sheffield stay up?
Sheffield, no chance.
No chance.
Burnley, unlikely as well as
Yeah.
I don't know what
6
happened.
points back of Everton.
Everton, Tottenham tied 2-2. I believe Tottenham was up 2-1, and then Everton
Yes.
scored.
Yep.
Yeah.
So 2-2. But Everton, we were talking about this before the podcast started, that earlier everyone was talking about, well, if you're going to take the 10-point deduction, you might as well take it this season because you're doing so well. But nothing is guaranteed, and the season is a long season, and now they're in the middle of a relegation battle.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
So now
tough
you
because
don't want those.
well, they were in a good run of form
Maybe
at one
what they
point.
should have said is this. They should have told them, can we take 2-point deduction this year, 2-point deduction next
Yeah.
year for the
Just
next
do it.
5 years?
or just deny it and have
And lawyers push it off for 10 years. and Call it a day.
Yeah, there you go. Boom. Simple as that. No, but I do think Everton are going to be fine. And but
So
I
who
say
goes
that
down then?
because-
Who do you think out
yeah,
of the,
that's the thing. Like I say that, and then I say Luton. No, hopefully not. So it's and then Nottingham Forest are decent too. So I don't know. That's interesting. That's gonna be
Since the new year, Everton has only won one game, and that was against Crystal Palace 1-0.
I actually think Palace might go
Think
down,
about that.
even though they're
If they keep falling.
yeah. Just the Olise got hurt, so he's out again.
Ugh.
So
They could. They do not look good. Brentford's down there, but they still have 2 games in hand, and with Tony back,
Yeah.
I don't see it being an issue.
no, I don't think so. Either. Plus, they're gonna win tomorrow. So
Oh, please.
So that's something that we should keep track of, is the relegation battle as the season goes on, because
Team
we're not sure exactly who's going to be in it at the end, but we have an idea. But Luton getting some results starts to make things tricky
yeah,
and a little unpredictable.
Sheffield
Which is
already
great.
gave up. So
And Nottingham Forest is close because they're only 2 spots away from it. But they just signed They signed a goalkeeper. So we were talking about this. They did sign a goalkeeper. I can't remember who it was, but it was like $7 million. I'm guessing they're going to start thinking about replacing
Turner,
Matt Turner, yeah.
Matt Turner. And they signed Gio Reyna.
yeah,
They signed Gio Reyna.
I watched the 10 minutes or so that he played in.
How do you do, Nathan? I'm interested to see how he'll do.
He's a lot taller than I thought. I mean, I've never really watched him to be honest, but he's a lot taller or he looked really tall in that.
He's lanky.
He didn't.
You,
I
do you
thought
think he was
was
shorter?
I thought he was like short, quick,
No.
wing type of player. So
He's like
shows
long and
yeah,
agile, kind of.
yeah. So it's
Just a little bit about matches around the world. So Real and Atletico tied 1-1. I would say a Real Madrid mistake for Atletico to tie the game at the end.
shows that
Girona-
you have no center back, no
Mhm.
really legit center back.
Yeah. And then Girona and Sociedad tied 0-0, which sets up isn't the next game Madrid-Girona?
Yep.
Yeah, next weekend.
So that's going to be an interesting one because that's going to have, again, big title implications.
Yeah.
Girona just keeps racking, but they keep racking up points, man.
Yeah, I mean
Keep
they're
racking up
up
points.
there, and
To be in the race this late, and it's not super late, but to be consistent this long is difficult, especially when you're playing in a league where Real Madrid and Barcelona and Atletico Madrid are typically the three teams at the top.
yeah. Well, Barca made up 2 points on those 2 teams this weekend because they won.
Do you think Barcelona fans were as upset when Xavi announced that he was gone at the end of the season as Liverpool fans were when Klopp announced it?
No chance. They're probably like, thank God.
Yeah.
So it's not. No.
He did say something that was. He did talk about. Someone asked him if Barcelona would ever have a manager like Sir Alex Ferguson, and he said it's impossible.
Yeah.
The standards are way too high at Barcelona. You don't ever get praised for doing anything. You only get criticized. And he's like, it's impossible for anyone to last that long here at Barcelona.
I heard Pep came out and talked about Xavi and said something similar that like it's a lot harder in Spain to coach there than it is in England in terms of like the expectations, especially at Barcelona. So
Yeah.
So,
interesting.
and Pep has been smart in his career about moving after a certain amount of time before it gets to the point where he's getting close to getting sacked or whatever.
Yeah.
I think unless he knows that there's a guarantee that he's going to do well next year, he's like, I'm out.
Or unless he has like billions or something like that.
That's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
Manchester City, it was quite easy for him to stay because he's like, why am I going to leave when we're still millions and millions of dollars ahead of everybody else pretty much? But the moment that Chelsea start doing well, spending the exact same amount as Manchester City, and Manchester United start spending as much as Manchester City, then I wonder if he's going to be like,
Oh, he's
I got to
gone.
find another team.
PSG. Boom.
PSG.
No, I think hopefully he just goes back to Barcelona.
Do you think
I don't
he would do that?
I don't know if he would.
They're
I don't think
shambles.
so.
I would love for that to happen. Just get rid of him.
There was a player who transferred somewhere. I can't remember where it was, but anyway, he said, I think it might have been Tottenham. I think he might have gone to Tottenham.
The guy who he was supposed to
the
go
last-
to Barca.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they said, why did you choose Tottenham? And he said, is it Tottenham?
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yep.
All right, somebody will fact check me anyway.
No,
in the
no, it
comments
is. It
and
is.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Lucas. I don't know
pulling
how
it
to
up
say
right
his
now.
name.
But he said, I went there because it looks like they have a clear plan and a clear vision of what they want to do. So, of course, Barcelona gets upset at that. And Deco,
Yeah.
sporting director, whatever his title is, said that there's always a clear vision at Barcelona and all this stuff. But shambles.
Listen, I
Shambles.
saw that, and you know what I commented on there
What?
on Instagram?
With one of your mini troll accounts, burner accounts?
No, my personal account.
Oh, yeah.
Is on the so Fabrizio posted that, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, "Well, yeah, it helps when you got paid 15 million more by Spurs than you would have got paid at Barca because that was a signing fee. He's getting paid 10 to 15 million more,
Oh, really?
which obviously you're gonna take, and you're going to the Premier League. So it's not really like if in 2-3 years you play amazing at Spurs, you're gonna get that chance to go to Barca anyway. Like if they really like you, so. Yeah, it helps when you're making 10
Of
to
course.
15
Yeah,
more.
but they leave that out of the...
Yeah.
I was gonna say that
Of the
doesn't say anything
storyline.
of that in here. Oh no. Lucas Bergval.
Yeah.
But we were also talking about this before the podcast, is the amount of pressure that you have at that level. Like, everyone's stressed out about their job. There's always something that bothers you. But the fact that these guys, it's not... Their job, their work, and their personal lives are one. There's no boundaries for these guys. So the moment that Xavi loses a big game, his wife, his family, everyone is subjected to the same amount of criticism that he is.
Yeah.
So, like, he cannot even go home and be like, I don't want to talk about work because his wife is getting abuse online, his kids are getting abuse at school, things like that. So can you just imagine? That's why he was done. I mean, he's been there for what, a year and a half now?
I don't
This
even know.
will be a second season, right?
2 years, 3 years.
Yeah. 2.
I don't know. I have no idea, to be honest.
So
Yes, yeah.
he's been there for a short amount of time
Yeah.
in relative terms, and he's already completely burnt out of that job.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
went as a player, and he played for so damn long. However many years do you guys think he played at Barcelona? Because he came through the academy and
whole
everything,
life,
right?
Just, yeah, literally everything.
So like his whole life, most of his life, he plays for Barcelona, and it takes him a year and a half or whatever the exact time frame is to say, I don't ever want to coach this club ever again, regardless
Yeah.
of even if they win La Liga, he's like, I don't care, I'm done, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell he's lost it, though. Like, in terms of, like, he's just done.
Yeah.
Like every time there's a back call and you watch Barca, he goes up to the camera, like corrupt, oh the referee this or referee like it's weird that they're allowed to go straight to the camera. I don't know if you guys saw the video, but in 2 games now back to back, he goes straight to the camera and like talks to the live camera. It's like, dude, what do you
Like he's talking to the fans.
Yeah, it's like
It is wild though, like how I feel like it would be is for these top players, especially like Xavi, where he's just so used to being able to do it himself that it like I feel like that would be a hard disconnect. He's like, well, just do this or do that. It's so simple. But for him, it was so simple because he was so good that like I feel like a lot of top players struggle at being top managers. Like you look at Pep, he was a good player, but he wasn't top. You know what I mean? And but going down and arguably one of the best at the position. So it's I don't know. I could see him just getting so frustrated with it and just eventually just being like, I'm done. But
I'll tell you
that would
what
be an exhausting life to lead.
I'll tell you what the difference I think is between him and Klopp leaving. Is that Klopp is just sick of a lot of other factors besides like I think he understood what he was getting himself into and what he signed up to be doing with Liverpool in terms of the limited transfer fee, like how much money they could spend in the transfer market. I think Xavi is more just frustrated with Barcelona and the fans. Like the actual Barcelona people is what he's frustrated with. Like Klopp is not frustrated with the Liverpool supporters. Yeah. Klopp is frustrated because VAR keeps screwing them over, because the league doesn't like them, because he's competing against the guy who can spend millions and millions of dollars and he knows there's really no way to win. So I think that's the difference, is that like Xavi's just fed up with his own people. Yeah. And Klopp is fed up with
like the system.
The system. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And he like Klopp took over 6th, 7th, 8th place Liverpool, so he knew it was going to take time to rebuild all of this and do that. When you go to Barca, you expect it to be right now, because Barca haven't, like we talked about, it's been since like 2001 or 2002 they've been outside of the top 4. So for like right now, the way they're looking, the way they're playing, it doesn't give too much confidence in terms of are they taking the step forward. Even though they won last year, now it seems like something's off. So,
and how crazy is it? How crazy it is as well is that now with these transfers, they're losing players to other teams that are not Real Madrid. Like Real Madrid is the only team in the world right now that in the past 10, 20 years have never lost a player who's wanted to go there.
Yeah.
Because it's always Real Madrid is my number one choice. If that doesn't work, I'm going to go somewhere else. But even if I take a step here, they know that my final destination is Real Madrid. Whereas Barcelona is losing players. Like you could say it was about the money, but still, players don't want to go to Barcelona because it's not as attractive as it used to be.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing, because if I was the Barcelona board and the president, I'd start thinking about what are we doing to make sure that we don't turn into Manchester United. Because we're starting to get to not starting to get to that point, because again, Spain is a smaller league where they don't have as much competition. But if they're going to let Real Madrid just start running away with things, now it's not just Real Madrid, but now it's always going to be Atletico Madrid, because they do a really good job, and then it's going to be Girona, and then next thing you know, it's going to be a Villarreal, a Sevilla, or whatever, and then Barcelona's finishing 4th, 5th in the table. Could be a very slippery slope. So I wonder what they're going to be doing to make sure that doesn't happen.
Well, it's funny you say that, because Pep just got asked about Haaland going to Real Madrid, because there's a bunch of rumors supposedly about Haaland is fed up with the Premier League in Manchester City. One, because the weather and all that stuff, but the main reason was he believes that he himself will never win the Ballon d'Or, no matter what he does, no matter how good he does at Manchester City. Even if Manchester City are the best team in the world, winning trebles, winning this, he doesn't believe that being in Manchester City is going to win him a Ballon d'Or, but being at Real Madrid, just by winning a Champions League, could get you the Ballon d'Or, could get you the best player in the world. So that's what Pep was asked yesterday, I want to say, or today, and he's like, as far as I know, he's very happy here and all that. But it's funny that that's being talked about, because it's true. Like, think about it. If Real Madrid win the Champions League, any of those players will be like, oh, Ballon d'Or potentially. He's going to be up there, one of the best players.
Like if they won this year, Jude would win the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easily. Right. If Haaland was on Real Madrid last year and Haaland just won the Champions League, I think Haaland ends up winning the Ballon d'Or over Messi just because it's Real Madrid. I don't think.
Really?
Yeah,
I disagree with that.
I was gonna say just because it was Messi and it was the World Cup, I would disagree with that too. But
At Real Madrid, it's just a whole
I think there's some
different-
truth. I think there's some truth to your argument. I think it looks more attractive when you win things with Real Madrid if you can be their star
Yeah.
player
Yeah.
because of the history of the club. But I think regardless of that, Messi was always going to win the Ballon d'Or because it was a World Cup, because of his legacy as a player and what he did for the game. I think it's pretty simple. If Messi wasn't around last year, or if Argentina doesn't win the World Cup, Holland wins the Ballon d'Or last
Yeah,
year.
Haaland would have won it.
So I don't think that's. I think that was just because of Messi being a World Cup year with Messi winning it to finalize his legacy.
I guess the thing I'm thinking of now that you say that, Georgie, is the only people who've won a Ballon d'Or since the Messi Ronaldo era, because it was Kaká, then Ronaldo Messi back and forth, and then Benzema and Modric, right? Because Modric won the year that Croatia made the final of the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And then
then-
they won Champions League as well.
Yep.
Real Madrid.
So there's I see the
Yeah.
argument there
And then
because
they
when you
didn't-
really
they didn't-
think about it, if your name's not everyone else since Kaká, if you're not named Messi, played for Real Madrid.
Yeah, and then Lewandowski should have won it, but they didn't give it that year. Remember?
Yeah.
They didn't give it at all.
Well, that was the COVID year, right? They
Yeah.
just decided not to do anything.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
so stupid.
So
He
dumb.
should just no.
But you're right. So I wonder if we go down the list of Ballon d'Or winners and see, is there any preference given to Real Madrid players? Because it seems like there probably is.
Yeah, I didn't think about
Yeah.
that until
Unless
you
your name is
mentioned it.
Messi.
Really.
I mean, I didn't even look into all that, but I just remember Pep talking about it today about Haaland.
All right, let's move on into a little bit of the transfer talk. So we were super excited about this transfer window, and we think there was, personally, I think there was a lot of opportunities for clubs to go in and be aggressive in this transfer window. The top clubs to try and maximize their title hopes. I think the transfer window was bigger for the middle of the table teams to cement themselves into the middle of the table to avoid relegation battle, to try and make a push for Europa League. So you had, and then get away from the relegation battle. Like Nottingham Forest signed a couple players. West Ham signed a couple players, which, unfortunately for West Ham, so far has not panned out extremely well, specifically with Calvin Phillips. 2 games, 2 mistakes that have led to goals.
Yep.
I don't know if there's another reason, but I would assume he got benched this game because of his performance in the first one. So, should we start? Let's just start with Calvin Phillips.
Yeah.
Should we try and reach out to see if he wants to play for Liquid Football at this point?
At this point, might as well.
Should I reach out for the Mexican League and see if he's available?
Have him take Georgie. That's your position, right?
Take my spot. I would gladly
Obvious-
sit it. I was
I
glad
don't know
to
if he would
watch
take George's position the way he's been playing right now.
that. It's just, man, I feel so. I'm a huge fan of Calvin Phillips. I do think it's just one of those things where he hasn't played in such a long time. Confidence is as low as it gets. You're 5 minutes in or 10 minutes, whatever it was in the first game, and you give the pass back and you get a goal scored. Like that alone, if you're playing on top of your game, that alone brings down your confidence. Let alone not played for 2 years, sat on the bench, and yeah, it's just confidence is as low as it gets, and it's sad because I think he's a really good player.
I was gonna say I think it's a mixture of the confidence and just not playing in a game. Like you can train as much as you want.
Yeah.
It is put the lights on, put people around you. It feels different. It hits different. The pace of everything's different. The pressure's different. That I think he'll slowly get back into it. I mean, he's done well. He did well at Leeds, and he does done well for England. And then I hope this is not the end of Calvin Phillips, because it would be really sad to see like one decision going to the best club in the world at the time, and that being the beginning of the end of your career would be pretty disappointing.
Yeah.
But I also see on the flip side of it why he never got in the team, because the way City plays at that position, you can't turn the ball over. Like if you turn the ball over at that position on that team, the whole system falls apart. So I could see why Pep couldn't trust him to get him on the field really ever, because it would be the detriment to the team, and that they would drop points quickly in those scenarios if he's turning the ball over like that. So
That's a good point that you bring up, because think about in all levels of the game, players will make mistakes. And that's like totally normal. Obviously, good players make less mistakes. But if you think about Manchester City, how many times have you seen players in those positions make mistakes that lead to goals in a league in which you're playing against teams that if you make a mistake, they will punish you for it?
Very rare.
That's crazy. So that just speaks on how good like Rodri has to be and some of these other players have to be when they play in these positions because of the huge risk that you're taking of putting one guy behind the ball and sending everybody else forward and possessing out of the back like that. So, yeah, I feel bad for. I was just thinking, like, can you imagine Calvin Phillips looking back at the end of his career and saying the worst decision I ever made for my footballing career was going to Manchester City
and playing for Pep Guardiola.
I hope not. He still got a while. I mean, he's a young guy.
Yeah.
He's in his mid-20s probably, right?
Yeah.
So I would assume that's his age.
I think he's like 25, 26 by now.
But he's still got a while. So he's still, if you think about it, he's got pretty close to, and Joe's looking, our stats man is looking up his official age right now.
$28.
So he's still got a good 5 years, let's say.
Yeah.
A solid 5 years. 5 years is a long time to be able to turn your career around. And I'm talking about 5 years at the highest level because 28 to 33, you could be playing in the Premier League at 33, no problem these days, if you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So I think he's got plenty of time. He's got plenty of time. So I hope he gets his feet back, gets his confidence back. West Ham is honestly a very good team to go to.
Yeah.
Where they're at right now, it's a solid team. He doesn't have to worry about the relegation battle. They're more concerned with trying to get into the Europa League and those spots. So I think it's a good team for him. He just needs to sort it out.
Yeah.
We talked about Reina going to Nottingham. The other one, the big one, Mbappe possible move to Madrid when his contract expires at the end of the season or whatever.
I was surprised to see that only because the PSG president came out and said so recently that we have a gentleman's agreement. He's not going anywhere on a free. And the way that I read that was that he's leaving on a free in the summer.
This story of Mbappe in Madrid is like, I feel like it's like 5 years ago and like we're here for the first time. Like it was always going to happen. No matter, I don't care what PSG say, I don't care what he says, he's always going to come out and say, oh no, I'm concentrating on PSG now, this is where I play. But he's going to Real Madrid at some point.
So it seems like.
And if you're ever going to go to Real Madrid, this is probably the time. Because you look at Real Madrid's team and you're like, I go there, possibly Haaland goes there, and now you're talking about a team that's not, for the next 5 to 10 years, you're looking at a team that's going to be winning every single thing.
Yeah.
So like again, back to the Barcelona, the teams in La Liga, I feel very, very sorry for them when like it's one thing when Real Madrid bought all those players like 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and it was like the Beckhams, the Zidane and all those, and they were like amazing, the Galacticos. And now you look at Mbappe, you look at Jude, you look at Haaland, and you imagine showing up, and then you have Vinny already on there, and you have the experience from the older players. Man, that's scary.
I think here's what it kind of reminds me of. Like this whole saga with Mbappe is getting really annoying because he says, I'm done with PSG. I don't want to train anymore. I'm not going to train or whatever. And they ban him for a week. Then they get rid of Neymar. And then he's like, all right, I'm back in training. And then he goes, I'm dedicated to PSG. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to Real Madrid. I've made up my mind. I'm going to Real Madrid. And then I've decided I'm going to stay at PSG. It reminds me of like Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao. Whereas like these big boxing fights that you want to see happen for the longest time. And you really want it to happen. And you're like, this is the perfect time. This is the perfect time. For whatever reason, there's always some bullshit delay. And then eventually you get Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao when it's not the best time to see them. It's the same thing with like now there's like Tyson Fury. They wanted to see Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua. And now it's a little too late because Joshua's lost a couple times. And like it just feels like if he doesn't go now, it's going to be too late. And it's not going to be the same anymore. So for me, I think he needs to be very careful because I think if he stays at PSG, Real Madrid aren't going to want him anymore. Because think about who they have right now. So they have Jude Bellingham, they have Rodrigo, and they have Vinicius.
Mm-hmm.
They could probably use a really, really legitimate center forward, but he's not really a legitimate center forward. And those three guys, you can't really put any one of them up top. I mean, you could probably figure it out. But what I'm saying is that Real Madrid's not a team that's going to be like, yeah, we want you forever. Like, just tell us when you're ready. If he doesn't go now, they might get to a point where Real Madrid's going to be like, yeah, sorry, you might have been really, really good before. We have good enough players now.
Because if they go get Haaland, then they have their striker with Rodrigo and Vinny, and then you have Jude in behind. Like, you don't have to bring him on, but at the same time, you really think that if Kylian Mbappe was like, hey, I'm ready to come, they'd be like,
especially under free.
we've got
yes.
We've got
right
Vinny.
No, for sure. Right now, yes, absolutely.
Even in a year, I think in a year or two, assuming he continues doing what he's doing, I think that at any point the door will always be open.
I'm saying this drama has gone on for way too long. Think about how, was it like 2 years ago that he was supposed to go to Real Madrid?
I feel like it's been like 5.
Yeah,
right.
I feel like it's been ever since he won the World Cup.
So the longer it goes, the more I think that Real Madrid is going to be the ones that are going to say, yeah, we're not really that interested in you anymore. And they don't want to be putting up with the drama back and forth. I think they've had enough conversations where right now Real Madrid's like, you know that whenever you're ready, you can sign the contract or whatever. We'll make you happy and all of that stuff. But Real Madrid's also not a team that likes to take their time and wait.
No.
Because everybody wants to play for Real Madrid. So they can always find somebody who's one of the best players in the world that wants to play for them. And if Kylian Mbappe wants to keep doing this back and forth stuff, and part of me feels like he's also doing it because he knows that PSG puts PSG under so much pressure that they're going to have to offer him a contract that's worth more than where he's going to get anywhere.
Oh, that's what I was about to say.
So I think that's one of the things that he's also like, I'm just doing this in order to make sure that I get the maximum dollar amount that I could get.
Well, and selfishly, he's done that and he's made bank.
Yeah.
Like, think about, that's why I feel like it's been like 5 years, because every single time there's rumors about, and like strong rumors, not just like, oh, here and there, like really, really strong rumors from reliable sources talking about Mbappe going to Real Madrid. PSG come out, oh, we're going to offer you a new contract. Stay here for this, and we're going to give you X amount of money. He's like, okay, yeah, this sounds good. And he stays. He's at home. He's in France. He's playing in an easy league. Wins everything there every single year. The best player in the league. Scores the most goals. And then Champions League, they always flop at some point. So that's been it's a cycle. We talk about Man United cycle. That's the PSG and Mbappe cycle. But I do think it's finally over.
Do you think part of it is because, I mean, if you look back at the beginning of the year, he did turn down going to Saudi, right, for, what was it, $1 billion?
Yeah.
Do you think he's looking at it saying, like, I've made decisions before based on money, and look at where I am, and it continues to frustrate me that he might just go regardless? Because I would assume PSG will offer him more money once if his contract's up. If he's going to re-sign, he'll get a contract from both. I would assume that it's going to be bigger from PSG. Are you saying that he's just trying to get that and then going to take that contract and say, hey, Real, match it, and I'll come?
I just think for where he was before at PSG, I feel like he thought, you know what, I'm going to stay here. This is home. And I'm going to play those games just so I get the most money I can. And then once it's like a good time, at like it is now, you go to, because you get, like, for example, 2 years ago, if you look at the Real Madrid team, I wouldn't be as confident
about going there, because it's not like you're upgrading your team that drastically.
Yeah, like, of course, Mbappe, adding Mbappe is amazing. But you have aging Benzema, aging Madrid, aging
Ronaldo
Cruz.
had just left.
Ronaldo had just
Vinny
left.
wasn't what he's doing now type thing.
So, like, you look at that team and you're like, like, don't get me wrong, Real Madrid's always been Real Madrid. But you look at that team and you're like, they're kind of on the... And, like, all the young players are now what they are now. They're just, like, just getting to, like, the environment, getting used to this. So now, fast forward 2 years later, you're looking at this team like, wow, you have Vinny, who's amazing now, one of the best players in the world. Rodrigo, one of the best. Jude, obviously, the best player in the world, probably. Then you have Modric and Cruz, who, like, Ancelotti, I feel bad for not playing Modric. Still there, amazing, like, technically smart, whatever, captain, leadership experience. And you have, like,
Chouameni, Camavinga, young players, right?
All those young players that I feel like are the style that Mbappe would feel like, you know what, I fit into this. Like, I feel like he goes into that team like with Neymar and Messi. I feel like he never really fit in. Like those three never really. I feel like they would never hang out outside.
Yeah,
They were like trying to build the
them.
MSN thing with Neymar, Suarez, and Messi, and
Exactly.
it never really worked with Mbappe. It was always different.
But you put him, like he goes to Real Madrid, him and Jude would be best friends. Him and Vinny would be best friends. All those guys would get along perfect. Like that's the vibe right now, and I think Mbappe like fits in perfect.
We'll see. But I would be scared to mess around with those PSG people. Of like saying like, yeah, I'm gonna stay, and then no, you know what, I'm gonna leave for free after my contract's over.
That's the biggest slap in the face. But there's a rumor though. Speaking of transfers, Rafael from AC Milan to PSG wants
Leao, yeah.
Leao to
For
PSG
Mbappe?
for 145 mil or something, or
As the Mbappe
155.
replacement.
Yep,
Yeah, I saw
Mbappe
that.
replacement.
Which he's
I saw that's his release clause. So if that happens, that's great. And if you think about it, they bought Mbappe for 120, was it, from Monaco? 130 mil, something like that. So PSG bought Mbappe for that much. Him leaving him free
that
would
hurts.
really, really hurt. And then, let alone hurt, they're like, you know what? We don't even care. We're just going to go
Do it again.
do it again with Leao. That's insane. That's
Yeah.
insane.
Were you going to move on from the transfer segment, by the way?
Yeah.
Because the one team I think that we didn't talk about, and I should have mentioned it for you to throw it on there, that I think did a great job this transfer window, who they're not there from a title contender yet, but they're up there, is Tottenham. Like, they were the only big club, really, that made moves
Yeah, it's
and solidified multiple good positions with good players and strengthening an already good team. And Tottenham was top, heading into December or November? So that's one team I think who's on the outside that's going to start making a run, not at the title, obviously, this season, but going into next year. And I think making a run this year, obviously, for top four, and I could see them catching Villa, is Tottenham.
Did you guys see the interview with this guy's always up to something?
Yeah, Big Ange.
When they asked him, like, so do you? I don't know exactly what the question was, but it was something about not winning titles, or not not having a trophy this year. So how do you feel about not being able to win a trophy? He's like, you don't think we can win the Premier League? And the guy had like no idea what to say. Can you imagine being Big Ange like, you don't think we're gonna win the Premier League? Like, I don't know if he actually believes that they can challenge for the Premier League at this point, but that's
You never know. It's not too far off. It's just very unlikely.
Yeah, it's not too far off, but like,
So I don't think it's at the point where he says like, "Oh yeah, the title's gone." Like, there's no chance for us to do it because they're close enough. But realistically, with where like Manchester City and Liverpool and Arsenal, and even Aston Villa, like it is pretty unlikely that Tottenham's going to be the one that comes out on top. I thought you were talking about the other part where I don't know if they asked him. I just saw his response, but they must have asked him something about whether he was happy with the transfer window or not.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one. That's what I thought you were going to mention, too. Have you seen that one? Where he
what did he
deep fakes all the reporters?
So he's like, so did you know that Lewis Hamilton went to Ferrari, right? And he's like one of the greatest Formula One racers in the world, right? And so Big Ange is like, yeah, there was one player there was one that I was disappointed that the club didn't pursue. I thought it was the right fit for us. And then he kind of like pauses a little bit, makes it more dramatic, and he's like, and he's like, you could tell in his head he's like thinking about how he wants to phrase it so he doesn't get in trouble. And he's like, but yeah, the club didn't think it was the right fit, so we move on or whatever. But it looks like he's talking bad about how the club didn't support him in his things. And then he's like, and then we ended up losing him to Ferrari. And so, but then right away after he says that, he's like, I got all of you. I could see all of you just typing away at your articles and stuff like that. So that was pretty good because I was like, oh, here's some drama.
Yeah. He's a character, man, when it comes to like these interviews and all that stuff. But
I wonder if it's his age that he's just kind of at the point where you could tell that he's like I'm doing the best I can. I'm not going to stress out about everything. If I lose my job, I lose my job. It's not that big of a deal in terms of like a life perspective, because in all these press conferences, he's super chill.
yeah.
right? You could tell he's not as pressured as like Arteta goes off on the VAR and all this other stuff. Like you could tell Klopp, like he said, he's losing the energy because of all of the BS that's going around. Even Pep looks stressed during some of the press conferences, and Big Ange just kind of shows up and it's like, "We've done it, mate. I've done it, mate."
I do like listening to him talk. He would be a great coach to play for. I feel like just a real dude.
He'd be a good person for a podcast.
Both of those are true.
But we can move on from the transfer talk. So let's go into the VAR room segment. So things that we missed that we're going to kind of revisit. So the first one is the Jude Bellingham drama.
Yeah.
So if you guys haven't seen what was going on, they played against Getafe, and apparently he may have allegedly called Mason Greenwood a rapist. So and it wasn't Getafe that hired a lip reader. It was the league that hired a lip reader. So it's one thing when the club does it because they want to try and find out, but when the league does it,
it's different.
Now you're going straight to the source of who's going to punish you if they find you guilty. So there hasn't been any developments other than that they've said that they're looking into the incident. But if he is found guilty, he could be banned for however long they said. They said that there's a length. It could be a lengthy ban if he's found guilty of that.
I mean, I don't even know what to say. Like the whole thing. I mean, like earlier I told you guys when I watched it for the first time, and it was there's an angle where it's really really close, and there's an angle where he tackles him, and the ball goes like out of bounds or whatever, and then he looks at him and then he says it. I thought he called him a muppet, and I thought people on social media were just like trolling about like the rapist thing. So then I saw the zoomed in one, and it does look like.
It looks like it.
Now
it's hard to tell though.
It's hard to tell, but I mean I don't know. It's a.
So here's one thing about that. First of all, if you ever watch a video where you're not 100% sure what they say, but the video has captions, your mind automatically reads the captions as exactly what they said. So if you watch a video like that one and you put the word Muppet under the video, you'll never think that he said the word rapist because you're reading the captions. So he said Muppet. Same thing. If you put the word rapist, you're going to be like, oh, damn, he said rapist. So, and I guess that doesn't necessarily apply to this, but if you would have watched that, what I'm saying is if you would have watched that video without anybody ever telling you that he said the word rapist, would you have thought that he said the word rapist?
No, I thought he said Muppet.
Exactly.
Like the first time. But then I did see everybody on social media going crazy. So then I was like, wait, let me rewatch it. And well, I guess you're right. Yeah, like if they put it in my head.
So what do you think now? I guess because you started with Muppet.
Well, I don't even know what to think now. It's hard. Like it does seem like he does say. I don't know.
Like he could say either. He could be saying either. So, but I'm just saying. So, like if someone showed you the video without giving you any context and said, "Hey, can you tell me what he said?" You probably would have said Muppet.
Yeah.
Until someone on social media, you said, "Oh, he said that." Oh, okay, now I can see that. So it's like those. Have you ever seen those like videos? Like it's similar to the picture of the black and white or the blue and gold. No, white and gold or black and blue dress. You remember that?
Yeah.
Like which one do you see?
Yeah.
Have you seen? There's videos
white and gold.
Have you seen there's videos of sound of like a phrase?
Yes.
And they say, does this person say this or does this person say that?
Those are freaky, actually.
And you can hear both based on what you're thinking they might be saying. I'm just curious if like that plays an influence on what people believe he said. Because now he's obviously in a lot of hot water.
It's gonna be very interesting to see what the league does and how they go about it.
They have to be absolutely sure that that's what he said.
So that's the hard part. You have to be. He would have to almost say,
"Yes, I
agree
did."
to it," or Greenwood would have to say, like, "Hey, that's what he said." And I don't think either of them have made a statement about it. At least I could find.
I haven't seen anything from either of them, so I don't know.
It's just funny because that's why the players talk like this now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or that's why they started talking like this, because they know that for that platform, cameras are always on you. So think about how many cameras there are in a stadium, right? And you see takes of like the manager celebrating for goals. You see takes of like there's so many different camera angles that they use for television, that they use for their personal like video, like TV channels and stuff. And there's probably a camera in that stadium that's dedicated to Jude Bellingham
100%.
that just follows him along the whole entire game because they know that he's one of the star players, so they have to kind of follow along his reactions and stuff. So you can't get away with any of that stuff anymore. I mean,
and that's before your fans even. Then there's however many fans that are
fan
in the stands too that could be recording you at any time. And if you're close and any of those tackles happen like on a sideline, like at Old Trafford or something, you're
right there.
super close. You could hear it if you'd had your audio on.
Kids nowadays, there's like kids playing at the club level who talk like that.
Yeah.
Like, all right, let's calm down, all right? But it's kind of funny.
But I just want to say though, with all of that being done, it reminds me, like the league is going, like obviously looking into it, hiring outside sources to figure this out, cameras and all that. To do that for that situation, of course, you want to know whether if you said it, whatever, do whatever is necessary. The problem I have with all of that is we talk about a few podcasts ago about racism. For the league, the Liga is doing all this because a player said something to another player, where obviously you shouldn't be saying that. However, we have in Italy especially
Fans doing it every week.
Fans do it every single week. The league does absolutely fucking nothing. And it's insane to me how, yes, he's in the wrong. If he does say it, it's wrong. And we go talk about racism where it should not belong anywhere around the world, let alone in a football game where people are playing for like a show to the fans who are supposed to be supporting, enjoying it, and the league is doing nothing. The teams are doing nothing. So it's so weird for me to like look at both.
Like, why is this such a big deal if that isn't type of thing?
Yeah, and two wrongs don't make a right, of course. But why can't you put those resources, all those cameras, all the hirings, all the things that you're doing for that? Why can't you apply it to racism? That's the great as soon as I saw that and I saw how much it went on social media, and I was thinking like, how come this is not done in like Serie A?
It should be the norm, yeah.
Like it's crazy to me.
When you think about how much money they spend, so they talk about like transfers, and clubs will say a $5 million difference between what one club's valuation is of a player and another club's valuation. They're like, is no more than a 5-minute conversation. They're like, if you are about $5 million apart on a player, it takes about 5 minutes to settle it. No problem. Player signed, deal is done, one way or the other. And you're telling me you can't hire a camera person to just put the camera and maybe a couple microphones on the away fan section to do this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
All them, like you said, they're hiring a lip reader. They're doing a full-on investigation. If I was a club of a player if I was the board or the whatever of a club that had players who were African American who consistently are dealing with these situations, you can't hire an intern who just records the fans, or not even an intern, but like an actual one or two people as part of the club. When you think about how much money you could pay somebody's salary to just go in and make sure that they can record the opposing fans and these situations where there's possible racism. Now the club shouldn't have to do it. The league should do it. But like you said, it just shows that there's a lot of things that you can do.
Yeah.
It almost just shows that they don't. I don't know. I guess it's gonna be harsh to say that they don't care because it's
no, but they
your actions would show that you care. You can say that you care and you can do all these things and have signs and say no to racism, but if you're not putting money and resources towards it, you don't care as much as you claim to care.
If I was one of those clubs, I would say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to spend $180,000 a year, which when you think about salaries that they're paying players this weekly, $180,000 a year. We're going to hire 3 cameramen or 3 people who are going to be paid $60,000 a year to go and put microphones on the away fan section with where the ultras are at, to have 1 or 2 cameras directly, one of those Zoom cameras, directly at all these people, so that anytime we see somebody making a sign, like a monkey sign, or throwing bananas or with the microphones picking up something, boom.
Yeah, simple.
The stadiums are big. Away sections are not that big.
Not, exactly.
Definitely manageable by a couple cameras.
Yeah.
And you'll miss some of it, but at the end of the day, that's not the whole point. Like if you catch 10% of it, all of a sudden the other 90% will stop.
Exactly.
Because if you get a lifetime ban for it, and you're an ultra fan,
all it takes is one or two people to be the first ones.
Yep.
And then boom,
all of a sudden.
All right. So the next one, which is kind of sad, unfortunately, is the Schalke 04.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was a club that was in the Champions League in recent years, maybe not recent years, but they were one of the bigger clubs in Germany.
Yeah.
Yep.
They were definitely very well known. A lot of big name players played for them at some point. They're currently in Bundesliga 2, right? Two Bundesliga or whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They are close to relegation, and if they get relegated, they would not qualify. So this is George. Maybe pull up the story so I don't get any of this wrong.
I'm going to see what place.
But the gist of it was, if they potentially get relegated because of their financials, they would not qualify to be in that next division, which would mean that they would have to start over as an amateur club.
Which is crazy, huh?
So they'd have to start brand new from the very bottom of the system and work their way back up. A club that just a decade ago was probably in the Champions League, right?
Yeah.
That's messed up, man.
It's insane.
It's because of their debt. They have a debt around of 165 million is what this says. So because of their debt, they wouldn't qualify.
It's insane to me how you're an owner of that club and you ran it literally not fully into the ground, but on the brink of being into the ground. They're 3 points away from the relegation playoffs. So 16th spot. So in Bundesliga 2, the bottom two teams go down. The third to last team plays in a playoff against, I would say, the third from the third league, and whoever wins that stays up. But right now they're in 14th with 23 points, and 16th spot is on 20 points, so 3 points away. However, I did bet on them, so they made me some money, so I can donate that to them if they ever need it. But I did bet on them last game because they were at home against the 17th place team, and they won 1-0. So
sad stories, man.
it's insane.
Especially if you're a supporter of the club. Can you imagine being a supporter of that club and
you watched it go down for
They were in 2010, 2011, the Champions League semifinal.
10 years, 12 years later, whatever.
So we'll see what happens.
Sad.
See what happens. And now they're probably at the point where, financially speaking, it's not like they can just say, okay, well, we're going to just spend a bunch of money to make sure we get good enough players. Now they're probably like, crap, we have what we have. We got to make sure we stay up.
Stay up, yeah.
Yeah, it's sad.
All right. And then the other one, we'll just touch on it really quickly, is this happened a few days ago. Your boy Nunez breaking records, man.
Oh,
breaking all the wrong records. Tell us what record he broke, Georgie.
He had the post/crossbar 4 times in the Premier League game.
The most since they started recording those stats.
Yeah,
one on insane. A penalty as well.
Yeah, one was a punt.
They were he hit every post and the crossbar.
Yeah.
And he nailed each one of them pretty hard.
Since you are a betting man, give us the odds of if you would have put a bet for $50. If you would have put $50 on him hitting the post or crossbar 4 times,
I honestly,
what the payout would be?
It'd probably be like millions.
Yeah.
It would. There's like the like.
I'm just gonna start doing that.
He's
from now on. $50 every game on Darwin Nunez hitting the post 4 times.
you probably win. I looked at the stat of, for some reason the Premier League has weird stats on their official website, but as of right now, there's Darwin Nunez is in first place. He hit the post/crossbar 9 times this season. Now, we're halfway through the season. And then 4 times he hit it, obviously, last game. But the second place person is with 3. Trent. For fuck's sake.
Jesus.
For fuck's sake. Liverpool.
Too much crossbar challenge at Liverpool after training.
So, yeah, that's funny.
All right, so let's get into the wild card. So we're almost done with today's podcast. I feel like this has been a longer one. Maybe just because we haven't done it in a while. But we have 2 more segments. So let's start with the wild card segment. and I'm going to change it a little bit from what I sent you guys in the text
I
messages.
didn't read it, to be honest. So,
So what I had was, what is the greatest goal in history? But I'm going to change it. I'm going to change it. What is the greatest goal that you've seen live in history? Because there's a lot of goals that I could name that
live is in person or live on TV?
No, live on television or in person. One of the two. And I'm going to say this. It doesn't have to be. It could be for a variety of reasons why it was the greatest goal for you personally. It doesn't have to be like.
Got it.
You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be like agreed upon by the masses. It
What
just has to
goal
be
got
why
you
do
so-
you feel like that was the greatest goal that you've seen? I'll let you guys start.
I'll go while you think, I guess, because I have mine. I'll go with one live and then one. The greatest goal. I'll save the live for a second. Greatest goal that I've seen that I remember, like, that got me so excited was, I think I told you guys this actually recently, was Clint Dempsey's belly goal in the World Cup in Brazil. I remember where I was. I remember standing up screaming. I remember all of it, and it was absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
That was the Spain?
No, that was against Portugal. Because at the time, that goal would have sent us through when we were in the group of death with Ghana, Portugal, and Germany in the Brazil World Cup. Portugal ended up scoring to tie the game at the very end. We ended up advancing anyways, but I still remember that goal put us ahead against Cristiano Ronaldo's Portugal. And I'm like, oh my goodness, we are going to escape this group.
Which was...
Because Clint Dempsey.
You think of the England one?
No. Which one was the goal? Which one was the game that USA beat Spain when Spain was on top of the world?
Confederations Cup.
Confederations Cup.
That was the year before that World Cup. And we lost to Brazil, I think, in the final. Okay. And Josie Altidore, I think he turned Ramos, I think, in that game. But yeah, USA beat
What
Spain
about the best goal you've seen live?
Best goal I've seen live was at the Maracanã, the opening game at the Maracanã of the Brazil World Cup, same World Cup. Messi scored against Bosnia, got the ball in the right wing, and he was dribbling at us, cut across the box like Messi normally does, banged it off the keeper's right post and in, and then celebrated, and we were behind the goal like 13 rows back, and he comes right to the corner.
And he pointed at you, Joe.
No, but it was wild. So it was the Maracanã, and it was their opening. It was like, that's obviously Rio's biggest stadium, and you could tell there's so many Brazil fans at the stadium because you could tell that they got tickets from their work or they live in Rio. Like, there's a lot of money in Rio, and there's a huge sea of yellow, and they hate Argentina fans. They hate Argentinians. And you've got young kids throwing stuff. You got people throwing their beers on the field, and Messi's scoring the first goal of the World Cup at the Maracanã, celebrating, and you just see beer flying everywhere. But it was absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. And I got to see Messi live, which was great.
He's okay.
All right, George, did you think of one yet?
I did.
All right.
Two, kind of. Steven Gerrard against Olympiacos in 2005. Liverpool were that was a game Liverpool needed to win by 2 goals because it was the qualify. Like, Liverpool the prior year got 4th, so you had to qualify to get into the Champions League. So that was a game to qualify, and I think Olympiacos won the first leg 2-1 in Greece, and then Liverpool were playing them, obviously, the second leg at home. They needed to win 3-1 to move on. And like last few minutes of the game, Steven Gerrard, the ball bounces, top of the box, Gerrard scores, wins the game, so Liverpool end up going to the Champions League. That's when Liverpool won the Champions League, so we got to the final, Istanbul. So that's the first one. And the second one is his goal in the final for the comeback against AC Milan. So like the whole year of Steven Gerrard's goal to get Liverpool into the Champions League, and then in the final of Liverpool, like him.
It's all just like, it was like written in the stars, literally from the beginning.
Yeah.
Mine is, and once again, this is a personal greatest goal, right? Because obviously there's a lot of goals that we could have.
He's going to say his own.
We could have picked.
One goal he scored.
No, not my Sunday League goals. Not my Sunday League goals. Giovanni Dos Santos
I knew you were gonna say.
against United
I knew you
States
were
in
gonna
the
say
Copa
that.
Oro 2011. This is the one game that I still watch probably once. I would say like once every 2 or 3 months. I just turn it on YouTube. I turn it on YouTube. There's like the 11-minute highlight. So we went down that game 2-0. And I still remember. I was really young, but I still
Javi
remember.
bet on them.
I think I was in
Coldest bookie.
high school. But I still remember that game when we went down 2-0. It wasn't like, oh crap, we're about to get smacked. It was like one of those games where it was like, we can come back. Like 2-0, like we're a better team. We just had a rough start. We can come back. And then we scored the first one, 2-1. And then we scored the second one, 2-2. And then we scored, I think, the third one. It was 3-2. And then I can tell you like exactly. I have this play memorized. The ball gets played down by the corner flag. Chicharito gets it, plays it back. I think it's like Torrado or one of those guys. And then Giovanni Dos Santos makes the run. He plays him in, and Tim Howard is like caught in the middle of nowhere because he kind of followed the play there. And Giovanni Dos Santos like takes a couple touches. Tim Howard's on the ground now at this point scrambling. There's really nobody in goal, but Giovanni Dos Santos is facing away from goal. And he just keeps dribbling and dribbling and dribbling. And Tim Howard, it's beautiful because Tim Howard is on the ground literally going like this at the ball. Like he's not just kind of like getting ready to dive or whatever. He is like trying to swipe at the ball, and Giovanni Dos Santos like takes the ball away. And he keeps swiping at the ball. Eventually, Giovanni Dos Santos creates enough space from him, turns. And the only possible way he scores that goal is by chipping it into the top corner. There's no other way he scores that goal because there's too much traffic in between him. There's a couple players already in the goal. Chips it, and the player, I can't remember who it is.
Bocanegra on the
Was it
on the line.
Bocanegra?
Yeah. Our
Jumps
best player in
up
the air.
as high as he can, and in that tiny little, literally like that 5-inch gap or whatever, the ball goes perfectly in. And the camera just literally pans to the goal and then pans to Bocanegra on the ground, laying down like on the net because he jumped and he landed on the net of the goal. So he's like in the goal, and you could tell he's just like looking up and he's like frustrated that ball went in. And then Tim Howard is on the ground, literally stomping at the ground because he's so pissed off at that goal. And I remember because one, it was one of the greatest technical executions I've ever seen. 2, the commentary was absolutely amazing. It's like one of those commentaries that gives you thrills or gives you chills. And he's like, the guy in Spanish he's talking about, he's like, turn the lights off, let's all go home, game's over. Like this is one of the greatest goals you'll ever see. But the other thing that always makes me think of what would happen in an alternate universe is I can't remember who it is, but there's a player that's at the edge of the box when Giovanni Dos Santos is turning and turning and turning and then eventually scores the goal. This guy was on Giovanni Dos Santos' blind side that if all he would have done is go and take the ball away from Giovanni Dos Santos, Giovanni Dos Santos would have never seen him coming. But the guy follows like a runner and goes away from Giovanni Dos Santos and almost gives him that space to turn and go. And in my head, I'm thinking like, dude, you're right there. Go and take the ball away from. Why are you tracking a runner when the danger is right there? And so he goes with the runner or whatever, which is less dangerous. Giovanni Dos Santos has the space and scores it. Top bins. But I always think like a smarter defender takes the ball away from Gio Dos Santos. No, nothing changes, or everything changes. I mean,
How does that make you feel, Joe, as a U.S.?
I remember watching that
What a
game and I
beauty.
was heartbroken.
love that game.
Heartbroken.
Chicharito was at his prime. We had
And
some really
Mexico
good
hasn't
players.
won a game against us since.
Is that really the case?
No. We've won.
No, they
We
have.
won for another decade after that, and then
Nah,
Calm down
Now
about
we're-
that.
so. But that goal is just.
World Cup final.
That was a good,
Mexico,
amazing
US.
goal. Absolutely amazing goal.
And by the way, I don't listen. We don't get into. I don't want to be. I'm not going to call these people out. I saw a podcast with some Mexican people,
No, call
which
them out.
really upset me.
Call
I don't
them
even
out.
remember what the name was. I just saw it, and they were debating who
Start
was
the beef. Start
Listen,
the beef.
this pissed me off so much because people say things for clickbait and people say things to get comments and engagement,
Mhm.
and you can typically tell when that is. But then there's people who say things that actually believe these things, and you're like, dude, are you stupid? Like, what's going on here? They were debating who was a better player in their prime, Chicharito or Raul Jimenez. And all of them but one said that Raul Jimenez was miles ahead of Chicharito. And in my head, I was like, are you guys First of all, how old are you guys? That's what I want to know because they're probably.
Well, they're in the present. That's why.
Yeah.
They saw Raul Jimenez in the past 5
But
years.
here's the thing: even the guy that was talking about Chicharito, that said Chicharito, he said his best moment, and he was like, "Oh yeah, Chicharito at Bayer Leverkusen was like amazing," and that's why. And I was like, "Dude, are you guys not old? Like, clearly they were not old enough to know that Manchester United was the reason why Chicharito is an absolute legend at Manchester right now. Like, he could still go back to the stadium, and people would love him at Manchester United." But I don't know. It just bothered me so much that they were like Raul Jimenez. Like, I was like, I don't know. I got so upset. I was getting rid. I was gonna use our social media page, our Instagram, to comment. Like,
You
you
should
guys
have.
are
Why not? You comment. Start the
Unbelievable.
beef.
Should've, yeah.
unbelievable.
We'll start the beef. The
Unbelievable.
problem with Raul Jimenez, he before the injury,
He was
that-
good.
He was
He was
getting.
really-
he was
he was
growing
good.
into it.
He was not
yeah.
Chicharito
getting
at
really
Manchester
good.
United.
no, he was not.
No.
But that's what those kids are gonna remember because, like in the past,
Yeah, but-
how long has it been his injury? 2 years now? 3
If
maybe.
not, I think maybe
Listen.
a little more, a few more.
Yeah.
You do any type of research, and Chicharito's miles ahead of Raul Jimenez.
Yeah.
Well, Chicharito when he was at Manchester United was
Unbelievable.
unbelievable. It was. I remember watching games. I'm like, how is he scoring
He
every game?
didn't.
scores?
He would do nothing all game,
And
and then
score.
he would score.
Score with the back of his head.
Yeah, he would, the guy
He
was
kicked the
unreal.
ball off his own face one time and scored. Do you remember that?
That was
one?
his first goal. That was his first goal.
falling over 3
Oh,
yards
yeah,
away.
yeah.
and
That was against like
shoots it off
Chelsea. That was
his
against
own
like Chelsea in
Yeah.
the
end.
Community
What the
Shield.
this is the guy.
Yeah, it's
And-
crazy.
Was
He's
that
a
the same
poacher.
game that Torres missed the?
I can't remember, but that was his first goal, and every single Manchester United player who's done an interview about Chicharito and answered a question about him will tell you that like his movement inside the box was unbelievable,
Unreal.
and in training it was so hard to mark him, and things like that. We can compare, and we typically favor our generation. We've talked about this. You typically favor the generation that you watched over others. However, that was just a complete lack of research done by those guys to say that Raul Jimenez was a much better player than Chicharito, because Raul Jimenez, it's like if Raul Jimenez right now would be playing for Manchester City and being a starter and scoring goals for Manchester City. Because when Chicharito was at Manchester United was the best team
Yeah.
in the Premier League. So anyway, rant over.
So
They're lucky I don't remember their podcast name. I'll tell you that right
okay, you can definitely find it if you really want it. Start the beef.
now. All right. Fun facts. Let's get into
Fun facts: that podcast is ass.
Georgie trying to start something.
I
we
want
don't have enough. We don't have enough subscribers for that yet, Georgie.
All right. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
No, fuck that podcast. What's the
Hey. Kids watch this. No, I'm just kidding. Kids don't.
It's getting late. Georgie wants
All
to
right.
fight some people.
It's past
Fun
midnight.
facts. And I'm going to keep this away from Joe because I have a serious suspicion that Joe's been peeking over at the book when some of these answers have been very close to the correct answer. All right.
Very suspicious. This
Fun
man
fact.
watches the podcast
I just
video.
bought the book and read it at home.
He's memorized every single page of the book, so he gets his
I
right.
see it on the screen.
All right. So here's the it's a trivia question today. All right. The record by Thomas Lundman for head juggling a ball was set on February 27th, 2004. How long in hours and minutes did he spend head juggling a ball?
18 hours, 12 minutes.
Georgie?
23 hours and 14 minutes.
All right. I'm going to tell you guys are pretty off.
Okay.
It's not that crazy.
Oh, I thought it was gonna be something insane. I don't know.
First of all, you got to think it's not just being like
I guess you just stand.
it's not just being
How long
awake.
are you standing?
It's not
and
just
looking
being
up
awake,
for?
but it's actually performing an act that's quite difficult for a bit of time. So
2 hours and 12 minutes. Since we're clear.
final answers.
4 hours and 42 minutes.
You guys were you went too high the first time, too low the second time. 8 hours and 32 minutes was how long this man spent head juggling a ball.
That's crazy.
So he
That
put in a
sounds
whole
terrible.
work shift. He put in a whole work shift of a person without a lunch break.
Or
Because he
bathroom
didn't get a
break.
lunch. I don't think you get lunch breaks for that, right?
Dude,
To juggle a soccer ball with your head for 8 hours and 32 minutes.
When do you what do you think got him to stop? Do you think he was just like, okay, that's enough? Man,
good
my
question.
back
Did
hurts.
he just collapse,
I have to
or-
go to the bathroom. I'm hungry, or he made a bad touch. Because my gut would say it's not a bad touch if you're in 8 hours, 8.5 hours. Like at some point, you're just saying, I'm good.
Is there a YouTube video on this or what?
I'm sure we can figure it out, but I want to guess first. I wonder what the record was previously. Because let's say if the record was 6 hours, at 8 hours and 32, or was it, what did I say, 8:32 or 8:34? At 8:32, you're pretty much...
Just like, I'm good.
Like, like nobody's really... I mean, somebody might beat the record, but you're 2 hours above the record, let's say.
I'm going for that damn record.
You can stop. So, could it have been a bad touch? Maybe. I mean, I've done it before, and you start kind of like your vision starts getting blurry because you're looking up.
Yeah,
and you're
after 2 minutes.
I said my neck normally starts hurting just because like it's not.
Yeah.
There must be. Did he do it the right way? Maybe he was just like sitting and.
So what are the chances that you think he just like headed it and just grabbed it and was like, all right, I'm done, versus like he just fainted or he was dizzy or he just like Joe said he took a bad touch or the wind picked up.
Can you imagine?
He was probably inside when he did it.
Can you imagine if that's the excuse? Like, oh shit, storm cave.
Or like his kid just came and kicked him in the nuts. That is the fun fact. And then the other fun fact was the Nunez record.
No,
but that was we already talked about that.
No, that's crazy. 8 hours. My God, my neck hurts.
My neck hurts. Yeah.
So we're sitting here for an hour and my whole body hurts. Can you imagine 8 hours?
Takeaways from this podcast: 1, get us to 1,000 followers on YouTube, so that we can start making some money.
Oh, right? I thought you would say start a beef.
2, clearly we don't have as much advertising as we need on this podcast. So from now on, we all need to be wearing Next Goal Wins podcast merch, and there needs to be signs behind every single one of us. Okay.
Tattoos on the forehead.
Darwin Nunez is having an absolute nightmare, breaking all the wrong records.
What do you mean? He's having an amazing season.
Georgie loves him.
My favorite player.
And is there any more takeaways?
Klopp is out.
Klopp needs to be sacked at the end of the season.
Let's not talk about
Same
Klopp.
with Xavi. Both of those guys need to go. All right. And lastly, just make sure you follow us on all social media pages at the NGW Podcast for Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. YouTube is youtube.com/at the NGW Podcast. So we're pretty easy to find. You can probably Google us at this point, be able to find it. Same thing with Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Look up the Next Goal Wins podcast, and you'll be able to find us on there. Anything from you guys? Final thoughts?
No.
Start the beef.
Oh, Georgie wants me to start the beef.
I want to start. We need to start.
There was 3 guys on that podcast. There's 3 of us.
Dun, 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 dun. Call
Simple.
Dana White.
Boxing.
Get us in the
boxing
octagon.
matches.
No. We go live on TikTok. And we have a
rap battle? What are you going to say?
I was going to say...
I used to be a rapper, by the way. Side story. I got a couple.
Save that for next
got
episode.
a couple mixtapes out in there in the
Do
world.
a 3v3 tournament against these guys. We'll set it up.
Yeah, I was going to say an argument
they don't
off.
look very good.
But
all right. That's it for this one. Thank you very much. We'll catch you in the next one.